Have you ever thought about how a tiny piece of land, one you could walk across in an afternoon, could shape the course of entire empires for thousands of years? Well, today, we're diving into the incredible story of Gibraltar. It's a tiny rock with a truly massive history.
And really, this quote just says it all, doesn't it? For centuries, Gibraltar's location made it a flashpoint, a fortress, and a prize for empires. It was this constant battleground, right at the crossroads of two seas and two continents.
I mean, look at this contrast. It's just amazing. We're talking about a piece of land that's only 6.7 square kilometers, but its recorded history? It's packed with almost 3,000 years of myths, sieges, and transformations that have literally shaped European history.
So how in the world did this tiny rock become such a historical heavyweight? Well, we're going to connect the dots. We'll explore 6 key chapters. Why its geography was everything, how it got its first forts, how it became British, the legendary siege that defined its people, its crucial role in modern wars, and finally, how it became the community it is today.
All right, so let's start at the very beginning, with the single most important factor in Gibraltar's entire story, its location. More than anything else, its geography is its destiny. So why was this tiny rock so important? It all comes down to this. It sits at one of the narrowest points in the Mediterranean, just 24 kilometers from Africa. Whoever holds Gibraltar controls the gateway between the Atlantic and the Med. It's a natural fortress with a perfect deepwater harbor. Honestly, in terms of military power, few places on Earth are more strategic.
But, for a long time in ancient history, this strategic value was kind of overlooked. Gibraltar was seen more as a place of myth, not a military base. But that all changed with the arrival of a new force from across the strait, a force that would change the rock forever. So, as you can see, the Phoenicians and Romans saw it as the sacred place, one of the legendary pillars of Hercules. The big turning point came in 711 AD. A Moorish army, led by Tariq ibn Ziyad, crossed from Africa. They renamed the rock Jebel Tariq, or the Mount of Tariq. Over time, that name got corrupted into what we know today, Gibraltar. And then, in 1160, the first permanent forts were built, and the rock went from being a symbol to a full-on fortress. So for more than 700 years, Gibraltar was a Moorish and then Spanish fortress. Its identity was completely tied to the Iberian Peninsula. But then a crisis in the Spanish royal family, something that seemed to have nothing to do with this fortress, would change its fate forever.
We can really break down how it was captured into 3 key steps. First, the King of Spain dies without an heir, which kicks off this massive war all across Europe. Second, in 1704, an Anglo-Dutch fleet, just looking for an easy win, captures the poorly defended Gibraltar. And what's interesting is they didn't even claim it for Britain. They claimed it for an Austrian who wanted the Spanish throne. And third, when the war finally ends in 1713, the new King of Spain is forced to officially give Gibraltar to Great Britain as part of the peace deal.
And right here, these are the very words that sealed Gibraltar's fate. Article 10 of the Treaty of Utrecht. The language couldn't be more absolute, forever, without any exception or impediment whatsoever. This single article became the legal basis for over 300 years of British rule. And, it's still at the very heart of the political dispute today.
But Spain never really accepted this loss. Not at all. The repeated attempts to get Gibraltar back would lead to one of the longest and most famous sieges in history, a moment that would forge the very identity of modern Gibraltar.
I mean, to put it into perspective, the rock endured an incredible 14 different sieges in just 500 years. It was almost always in a state of conflict. But one siege stands above all the others.
The Great Siege was a true David and Goliath story. Just look at these numbers. The odds were just staggering. A small garrison of only 7,000 defenders holding out against a combined French and Spanish force of over 40,000, plus a massive naval blockade that cut them off from the world for nearly 4 years.
So how did they possibly survive? Well, it came down to incredible resilience and some pretty brilliant ingenuity. During the final massive attack, the enemy used these supposedly invincible floating batteries. The garrison responded with a simple but devastatingly effective idea. They heated their cannonballs in furnaces until they were glowing red. These red-hot shot set the wooden ships on fire, turning what should have been a defeat into a stunning victory. This victory was way more than just a military success. It became a cultural phenomenon. The defense of the rock became this huge legend back in Britain. It developed what one historian called a sort of cult status.
This created such a powerful emotional attachment that it became politically impossible for any British government to even think about trading it away. And of course, it gave us that famous saying for unbreakable strength, strong as the Rock of Gibraltar.
Okay, let's fast forward to the 20th century. In a new age of airplanes and submarines, Gibraltar's strategic importance was about to be proven all over again.
During World War II, the Rock was an absolute linchpin for the Allied war effort. It was the home base for the powerful naval group Force H. It was a vital assembly point for the convoys that were the lifeline between America and Britain. Its airfield was crucial for the campaigns in North Africa and Italy. And get this, deep inside the Rock itself, engineers dug over 50 kilometers of tunnels, creating a huge underground city for the entire garrison.
But this total commitment to the war came at a great human cost. In 1940, with invasion looking like it could happen any day, the entire civilian population was evacuated. Families were scattered all over the world, from London to Jamaica. The Rock became a pure military fortress, and it would take years for its people to come back. The very last evacuees didn't get home until 1951, a full 6 years after the war had ended.
After the war, Gibraltar began its final, and maybe its most profound, transformation, from a military base into a modern, self-governing, and self-sufficient community.
But this journey happened under immense political pressure. As the Gibraltarians started to assert their own identity, Spain's dictator, General Franco, retaliated by completely closing the border in 1969. For 16 years, the Rock was totally cut off from the mainland. And that didn't just isolate them, it actually forged a new, fiercely independent Gibraltarian identity.
This chart shows the result of that first referendum in 1967. When they were asked to choose between staying with Britain or joining Spain, the result was, well, overwhelming. Over 12,000 votes to stay and only 44 to leave. The people of Gibraltar had made their wishes incredibly clear.
And that feeling didn't change over time. Nope. In 2002, a new proposal for the UK and Spain to share control was put to the people. And as you can see, the result was even more decisive. Almost 99% of voters rejected the plan. It was another powerful statement about wanting to determine their own future.
So, facing this isolation and later on the downsizing of the British military, Gibraltar was forced to completely reinvent itself. It couldn't just be a fortress anymore. So it pivoted, building a whole new modern economy based on things like tourism, shipping, financial services, and online gaming. This amazing transformation wasn't just about survival. It was a deliberate choice that turned the Rock into one of the most prosperous communities in the region, a real testament to that resilience forged over centuries.
And that brings us to today, where the Rock stands at this unique crossroads, a British city, a Spanish claim, and a fiercely independent Gibraltarian people. This complex legacy leaves us with a really fascinating question. What's next for the Rock? If you enjoyed this journey through history, check out the other videos in our Quick Country Histories playlist. And don't forget to subscribe to Notebook Summaries for more explainers like this.